Hello and welcome to AI Scouted on Anfield Index Pro. I'm Dave Hendrick, joined as always by Mr. Karl Matchett. How are you, sir?
17 out of 10. How are you, Dave?
I'm good. The Asian tour is over. The Reds are heading home. Next up, 2 games against Athletic Bilbao, and then it's the Community Shield as a final warm-up, and then the real game starts. So we are closing in on a new football season, which is very, very good. Today, Karl, we thought we'd take a look at the last 2 games against Milan and against Yokohama. Have a quick chat about them. Obviously don't need to get too deep into them because they are only pre-season friendlies. And then take a look at kind of what we still need in our squad, or what we think we still need, and then what our rivals, the other Big 8 clubs, need and how their summers are going. So let's start with the Milan game. Obviously, the result wasn't what we would have liked, but ultimately the result is meaningless. But what did concern me in this one, Karl, and again, you don't take too much of the preseason, but did concern me that all 3 of their goals were basically exactly the same. Us turning the ball over high up the pitch and getting countered through far too easily. I'm not counting their final goal because it was just a mess. But the first 3 goals were basically carbon copies. Us getting countered and opened up very, very easily.
Yeah, I mean, I think, like you said, we won't go too deep into it, but I think the midfield alignment, let aside the fact that we've only had 1 centre-back in each half in those games, but the midfield alignment isn't obviously tremendous at the minute. I think you can see there's a bit of rebalancing still needs to happen, whether it's, as a real change to play with the double pivot, or whether we're going to rotate between 3, a box, 2 there, whatever it is. There's still work needs to be done, let's say, for the cohesion overall, which is fine. You'd expect that at this point with new people coming in and maybe a slight change in off-the-ball positions. But it was a rinse and repeat approach from Milan, wasn't it, all the way through the game, let's be honest, not just the goals.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, they were very clearly trying to draw us in, take the ball off us in their third, and then spring the counter. Like you said, we were a bit unbalanced. The first goal, Gravenberch is playing centre-back. He's way too high up the pitch. Defensive midfielder, Tyler Morton, just non-existent. We get countered and they score. Second goal, Ibu, right side centre-back, far too far up the pitch. Gravenberch completely absent as the holding midfielder in the second half. We get countered, they score. Third goal, a little bit different in that it was on the other side of the pitch, but again, our defensive midfielder had gone walkabout and they countered us and scored quite easily. And they had other opportunities from similar types of breaks. So that is something that's going to need to be worked on. It is why I've been saying all summer that we do need to address the number 6 position, but it appears we will not this summer. We played Yokohama then in the second game, and we went 1-0 down. But then we woke up in the second half, and Florian Wirtz gets his first goal for the club, and then goals for Trey Nyoni and Rio Ngumoha. Really nicely worked goals. The Rio one, an individual piece of brilliance. The Trey one, he gets on the end of a really nice cross from Jeremy Frimpong. So I thought the second half, we just looked a lot better. We looked more cohesive as a unit than we had in the first half. Big part of that, the introduction of Alexis McAllister for his first pre-season minutes.
Yeah, a few nice visuals, let's say. It was good for Endo to get the reception he did, obviously, when he came onto the pitch. Lots of appreciation among the fan base, both there and elsewhere, for Rio, obviously. It was nice to see, let's say, in contrast to previous pre-seasons, as we said before, the matches actually started. Like, often the first few games you see people, 17, 18 and 22, 23, who have no immediate future in the first team and possibly none at all, but they're just playing for minutes, basically, and just get a bit of a run-out. But we haven't got enough pre-season games this year to do that. So it has been only the youngsters involved who have got basically a bit of a chance of being involved. So I do think, like, Trey having an impact and Gamar having an impact, there are potential minutes there for those young players this season. So it is good to see them not always entirely positive, which you'd expect, but certainly fitting in general. I don't think they look, any more wildly out of place than Costas has done at some points, or Bobby Firmino when he had his off games or something like that.
Yeah, well, Bobby would just look like he'd been, getting drunk before the game. Costas looks wildly out of place because he's playing at centre-back, and it is a ridiculous experiment that needs to stop very soon. The Robbo at centre-back stuff is a nonsense as well, and it's actually worse than Costas at centre-back. So all of that needs to go away. So a couple of notable things on the tour, Karl. The use of those two young players, and like you say, there should be minutes for them this season. Trey, I would assume, gets like a slight uptick in minutes from last season, and maybe he gets 300, 350 first team minutes across the cups. Wouldn't expect to see him start a league game, but maybe he gets an appearance or two off the bench. Similar in the Champions League, maybe if there's a dead rubber at the end of the league stage. Although I think Arne might have learned a lesson from last year. If we had beaten PSV, we would have avoided PSG, and potentially we would have gone on and won the competition. But Rio, seems to be a growing swell behind Rio, and much of it is because he's such an exciting player visually to watch. But a lot of the journalists are starting to talk him up now as well. And I do wonder if, we look at our attacking options, and let's assume Isak comes in. So we've got Isak, we've got Mo, we've got Hugo, we've got Cody, we've got Florian Wirtz, who Arne has referenced playing on the left. I do wonder if Rio might be the sixth attacker this year, if he might be the Federico Chiesa this year and get the minutes that he got, plus some more, plus maybe a share of the Harvey Elliott minutes that are going around, because obviously Wirtz will play in midfield a lot. I wonder, might Rio see somewhere in the region of 800 to 1,000 minutes across all competitions this season?
That would be quite a jump for a young player. 1,000 minutes straight off. It's possible if we go through the cups, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I do think there might be a league game or two where he might start as well. Based on the schedule, I do think there's going to be an opportunity for him. And look, if the kid comes in and does really well, Arne is the type to continue to give him minutes up until those minutes need to be taken away or tapered back, to just make sure he's not overexposed. But look, we just saw a 17-year-old be one of the best players in the world last season, and I'm not comparing him to Lamine Yamal, but Lamine Yamal played, I think, 4,500 minutes last season, which is obviously way too much. But that was his second season playing heavy minutes at Barcelona. So I do think it's possible for him to step up and scale up. He's got the right type of physique. He's not a small kid. He's well built. He looks like he's got plenty of muscle to him, and he absolutely backs himself. I mean, that kid has never seen a fullback that he didn't think he could scale.
I think one of the bigger questions is, has he seen a teammate he likes to pass to just yet? That's maybe something we'll need to see a bit more from him, isn't it? Let's be fair. But on the other hand, it's a really good thing to see the absolute entitlement that he thinks he's got to keep the ball, to go at people, to make things happen, to just try over and over and over and over again. You can't coach that out of players, otherwise you lose the whole point of them anyway. So one thing I wanted to ask you, and I think this is probably more relevant to Nyoni than Ngumoha, but do you think there is more from a developmental perspective? Do you think there's more benefit to a young player in a position like that, midfield position, general all-rounder kind of option, to make, should we say, 15 to 20 appearances as sub? So you're only probably getting, should we say 20 appearances, average of 15, 300 minutes, or to make 5 starts and not feature for the rest of the time?
I think the 20 sub appearances will do him more good. Like at the kind of 15-minute a goal sort of range. I think if it was like 20 appearances of 5 minutes, that's a different thing. But 15 minutes, you should get into the game. You should have a couple of touches. You should get to feel the rhythm of the game. And I think that kind of consistent involvement as well, because the more opportunities he gets and the more times he comes in and does a solid job, the more his teammates will trust him, the more the manager will trust him, and the more, most importantly, he'll start to trust himself as well. Whereas if it's just a handful of starts, it really only takes one bad start for doubts to creep in, both for himself and with others looking at him. Whereas if he's getting 20 sub-appearances, if he has one or two bad ones, they get forgotten in the wash. And I think having that consistent involvement and being around the first team all the time and training with them all the time, I think that would benefit him more in that midfield area. With the wing position, it might be a case that the starts, getting to test yourself for 60, 70, 80 minutes against a Premier League level fullback, maybe that's a bit more beneficial, although I'd still lean towards the sub-appearances because, especially with Rio, if he's coming on against tiring defences, I think, all he needs is a couple of runs and maybe he gets into a groove and the confidence really starts to flow and build. So I always think the smaller appearance time, but the greater amount of appearances, I think that helps them more.
Yeah, I think for Nyoni, that would be quite important. Like having regular involvement, I think is going to be a big thing for him this year. I was looking at not just his appearances, but like when he was on the bench, when he was involved in the first team, basically last year. So he had only 5 appearances, let's say. So 2 in the FA Cup, 2 in the League Cup, 1 in the Champions League. That was it. So it's 225 minutes, which is not loads, but it's fine. It's a bit of involvement, and we're only talking like maybe doubling that for this coming season, maybe a bit more than that, depends how he does. But in terms of being on the bench even and not used, he had 4 games in the league which were all in one run. Now, it was all in one quite big run of fixtures, to be fair. It was Man City, Newcastle, Fulham, Tottenham, all of them in a row in December, and obviously we had 1 or 2 absences. But he wasn't in the league squad for any other games at all. So I think it would be really beneficial for him to be on the bench in the squad, like, I don't know, 12, 15 games if it's possible. Like, even if it's unused for half of them, but he gets 5 and 10 minutes and just starts to become more of a first team factor. Now, obviously, that's down to other people's availability as much as his own development, and that's fine, that's understandable. But, in the Champions League, when you can name kind of nearly everybody, he was only on the bench 3 times last season, plus the one he came on for. So I do think there's scope for more senior involvement there overall.
I would almost, I've said this before, like back when we used to have the 5 subs on the bench, was it 7? Was it 7 subs you used to have and you could bring on 3?
It was,
or was it 5
and 3 on, and then it was 7, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So it must have been when it was 7. I used to advocate for having 2 additional spots on the bench for academy graduate players under the age of 20. Because it's a great way to give players the match day experience. Even if there's no chance they're coming on, they're staying with the team the night before. They're going through the whole pre-game routine and they're seeing how the best players prepare themselves for a match, both physically and mentally. They're going through the same briefing process. They're getting the tactical information given to them. They're in the dressing room and understanding what that's like. They're going through all the warm-ups and then the warm-downs after the game. And they're seeing the process, because it's not just about turning up and playing for the 90 minutes. It's everything that leads up to that. The night before, the morning before, the afternoon before, and then in the evening afterwards, the recovery part of it. And I think that could be hugely beneficial. So if Arne was to look at it and say, right, I've got 9 spots on my bench. In every league game, I'm going to have 1 of Trey or Rio. And I'm going to rotate them. I'm going to set that out to them at the start. You're going to get injuries allowing you're going to get 19 appearances on the bench. You might not get on in more than 10 of them. You might not get on in more than 6 of them. But you're going to be on the bench for 19 league games. You're going to play in the cups. You're going to be involved in the Champions League, in the squad. And we're going to build you that way. And you will get opportunities, but, they're not going to be guaranteed to you. I think it could have a hugely beneficial boost to both of them. Rio gets all the hype, and rightly so. He's a special talent. I think Trey is every bit as talented. It's just less obvious because he's a more conservative player, but he's incredibly calm, such a level of composure. He's a smart passer. He's a very good passer as well. And even when you see him off the ball, he knows where he's meant to be all the time. When he's come on in pre-season, you rarely see him caught out of position. We look better defensively when he's on the pitch than we do when certain senior players are on the pitch, because he's in the positions he's meant to be in.
Right, the Reds, it's Jack here, and that was a clip from one of Anfield Index's audio podcasts. If you have enjoyed the video, make sure you do like, share and subscribe to keep up to date on all things LFC. We record around 100 audio podcasts every month, with our shows featuring match-going fans, top journalists, professional analysts and even Liverpool legends along the way, with the Great Dane himself, Jan Molby, joining us every single week. If you want to listen to all our podcasts for free, head over to anfieldindex.com/podcasts. Our audio shows are available wherever you get your podcasts. Just search Anfield Index. Or if you prefer to listen to all our podcasts in full and without any ads, why not head over to AI Pro today to check it out now at anfieldindexpro.com. If you want to get involved in the great growing community of Liverpool fans, check out the Anfield Index Discord. The link is in the description. Do get involved with that, from Reds around every corner of the globe. For now, Reds, hope you enjoyed this video.